Tucker Carlson formally dumps the GOP over the war in Iran, plus the Senate just blindsided the administration with a war powers vote, and Democrats face a radical socialist takeover in New York. All that and more right now. Welcome to episode 67 of the Republic Brothers podcast. He's Matt, I'm Mike, and today is June 24th. Please hit that subscribe button now so you don't miss our next episode on Monday. Well, Matt, let's kick things off today with Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson appeared on the Can't Be Censored podcast, and what was supposed to be a standard interview turned into a bombshell when he announced that he's withdrawing his support from the Republican Party. I didn't know he was even supporting them still, to be honest.
I'm sure we're all devastated.
Yeah. His exact words were, quote, "I would not support the Republican Party. There's no chance I would support the Republican Party. How could I or any American voter support the political party that's not loyal to the United States, that puts the interests of a foreign country above those of its own citizens," end quote. He clarified that he has no intention of supporting the Democrats either, stating simply, quote, "I don't know what I'm going to do, but there's no defending this, so no, I'm out. And if I'm out, then I think a lot of other people are out," end quote. Tucker's complete disillusionment stems from the bitter months-long feud over the direction of the America First agenda. The breaking point for Tucker was the administration's military escalation and ongoing conflict with Iran. He explicitly apologized to his audience for supporting Donald Trump during the 2024 election, claiming he unintentionally misled people. Tucker has fiercely attacked the GOP establishment and the White House, arguing that congressional funding, military actions, and diplomatic decisions are being made to satisfy donors and foreign interests, specifically pointing at Israel, rather than everyday American citizens. He went so far as to call the party's current actions immoral and treasonous. This was not a one-sided exit. President Trump recently fired back on Truth Social, blasting Tucker alongside Megyn Kelly and Candace Owens as fools and low IQ voices who don't understand the reality of global strategy.
Tucker withdrawing his support from the Republican Party is like us saying we withdraw our support for Iran. It means absolutely nothing to the supposed people he is withdrawing support for. We have said many times before that Tucker no longer represents what the Republican Party stands for. It is no secret that Tucker takes money from the Russians, and that is who he does his supposed journalism for. It's unfortunate he didn't come out as a Democrat because that would have been great for Republicans. Tucker talks about the America First agenda, like that means we should have no input or say on issues around the world. The world is not a safe place, and it's in our best interest to make sure our interests and those of our allies are looked out for. That is why we spend so much time and money patrolling the global oceans, ensuring trade routes are open, and ensuring our allies around the world are safe. There's so much we could talk about here, but we'll keep it simple. Tucker takes money from Russia, and Russia needs Iran to produce drones and sell them to Russia. The axis of evil, which is what we called it during World War II, is simply working together here. Tucker is a means to export that platform and that propaganda to the West. We have discussed it before, but the West is very bad at long-term planning because politicians can only look as far ahead as the next election. If you are a leader for life, you have more flexibility when planning for things 20 to 30 years in the future. They are confident they will still be the leader, so they can take more risks today. Trump calls them low IQ, but I call it chasing the money and following the commands from the people who sign your paycheck.
Yeah, the whole reason this is dominating the algorithms this week is that the clip went viral and it's already triggering a domino effect. Former Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene explicitly aligned herself with Tucker, taking to X to announce that she is also done backing the party. Although we kind of already knew that about her too. She wrote, quote, "Tucker is not the only one who's done supporting the Republican Party. There are a lot of us that are absolutely fed up. We are done with the America Last Republican Party," end quote. Now, I think I know your answer here, but is Tucker right to walk away, or is he just fracturing the party right before the midterms?
Well, MTG is not exactly popular right now. I wonder who they will vote for now, given they claim they can't support the Republicans. I flat out said on the last episode that I think Trump will ultimately lose the war in Iran, but I'm not switching sides now. This is not one issue that decides everything for me. I look at everything and make my decision based on all the evidence for all issues. The America First policy Trump says he supports does not mean being an American isolationist. Isolation will result in a more dangerous world. It is smart for us to ensure nations who want to destroy us don't get the capability to do that. They chant death to America, yet some don't believe them. The simple answer to your question is that it didn't matter. Tucker was not seen as a Republican or Democrat by either party, but he just announced he wasn't a member of either party. It really doesn't make much of a difference. Do you think either party even wants to claim Tucker as one of them?
I don't think either side wants him on their side.
I've said on this podcast before it would be wise of the Republican Party to not let Tucker Carlson be the voice of reason for the party.
Yeah, we've been saying that Tucker's starting to get further and further out there for a while. He's closer to Nick Fuentes than he is to Donald Trump now. And I'll tell you what I really think about Tucker Carlson. He's full of crap. He is after one thing and one thing only, and that's clicks. He's looking for a soundbite every single time he speaks, and that turns into clicks, and clicks turns into money, just like you said, money that he's getting from Russia.
Chasing the money. That's the only thing some people care about.
Yeah, and we know why Marjorie Taylor Greene is agreeing with Tucker. People have been calling her a nut job for years, even when she was backing Trump. And now that Trump is done with her, she's looking for any opportunity she can get just to come out and say she's against him.
Well, yeah, and it's not a surprise. We can remember the times when MTG was welcomed into the Democratic fold, albeit for a brief period of time. She was a Republican who was against Trump, so the left saw a golden opportunity to use a so-called Republican and say that Trump's base was against him. She went along with it, completely unaware that the left would use her up and throw her away the moment it was convenient and she no longer had any use for them. That ended up happening, and she lost her seat in Congress. Now she's basically irrelevant.
Yeah, this is one of those things that it's like, it's news, but it's not really news, if you know what I mean. That's kind of how this next thing is, too. The Senate voted 50-48 to pass a concurrent war powers resolution directing the president to remove U.S. forces from hostilities against Iran unless Congress explicitly issues a declaration of war or passes a specific military authorization. Because it is a concurrent resolution, it does not go to the president's desk for a signature or a veto. The House already passed this exact measure earlier this month. In a Republican-controlled Senate, this could only pass with defections. 4 Republicans crossed party lines to vote with the Democrats: Rand Paul, Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, and Bill Cassidy. On the flip side, the math was made possible because 2 Republicans were absent. Meanwhile, John Fetterman was the only Democrat to break ranks and vote against the resolution, standing firmly with the administration's military posture. The timing of this vote is what makes it so critical. It comes directly on the heels of the administration negotiating a 60-day peace roadmap with Iran in Switzerland. Lead Democrats like Senator Tim Kaine argued that with a temporary ceasefire on the table, now is the exact right time for Congress to reassert its constitutional authority so the executive branch can't just ramp the war back up on a whim. They pointed to the heavy toll of the conflict, billions of dollars spent, and 14 dead U.S. service members, while House Foreign Affairs Democrats claim this measure is legally binding under the 1973 War Powers Act. The White House and its allies argue the resolution is largely symbolic because the administration maintains that U.S. forces are not currently engaged in active hostilities, and they view the War Powers Act itself as unconstitutional. President Trump took to Truth Social late Tuesday night to torch the vote and the Republicans who allowed it to pass. Quote, Senate decides to have a poorly timed and meaningless War Powers Act vote, telling the number one sponsor of terror in the world that the United States doesn't like what I'm doing to them, and I must stop, and by so doing has provided aid and comfort to the enemy. End quote. He followed up by calling the 4 defectors Republican losers and claiming that Iranian officials were already mockingly asking U.S. negotiators what the vote even meant, effectively undermining the nation's leverage. What is the point of this now? Why are they even doing this?
Well, this followed a House vote where they also voted to say the president needed congressional approval for a military conflict. It ultimately doesn't mean much. Some will say it shows support for Trump is gone, but when you consider how narrow the margins are for Republicans in both chambers, it doesn't take more than a few congressmen or women in each chamber to switch sides for the vote to go the other way. It ultimately doesn't mean much. This passed as a concurrent resolution, which means it does not go to the president's desk for signature to become law, and therefore it does not have the force of law behind it. As you mentioned, Trump believes the War Powers Act was unconstitutional, as have most of his predecessors, and he will likely ignore it. That means it's up to Democrats to sue all the way to the Supreme Court for a ruling on this. They would have to take the decision to go all the way and get the Supreme Court to decide whether the president can conduct military operations without congressional approval. It would be in our best interest for the leader of the free world to have the ability to launch strikes without notifying Congress. Do you think it would be a good idea if Ilhan Omar got word of a strike against a terrorist? She would likely tip off the enemy. Trump is right when he says this is more ammunition and more propaganda for the radical regime in Iran, though. This was a great day for radical Islam. It's only symbolic, but for the West to neuter itself is a great thing for dictatorships and communist countries all over the world.
Why would Rand Paul and Senate Democrats pass a resolution limiting military operations at the exact moment that Vice President JD Vance is trying to leverage U.S. military? He's trying to use that leverage to force Iran into a permanent peace deal, and they literally just handed Iran a bargaining chip and more propaganda to feed their people.
They did. It's a good question why they would vote with Democrats. I really wish I had an answer for you. Maybe they feel that is how their constituency feels, but other than that, I don't know. I struggle to believe, for example, that the people of Kentucky wanted what Rand Paul did here. And I imagine this will also mean Trump supports someone else in the next primary challenge, but it is interesting nonetheless.
Like we said, it's basically meaningless. It doesn't change anything. Trump's not going to listen to it, but it does give our enemy ammunition to say, oh, look, they're turning on him. They don't believe it. Now you're giving them power, and that makes it harder for Trump to negotiate.
Inside Iran, they're absolutely using this as proof that what the U.S. is doing is illegal, and that's why all the people of Iran should stay in line and continue following the policies of the radical regime. Of course, they don't call themselves radical. They just say they're a normal regime who's doing what's best for their people.
None of this really makes sense, and this is one of the infuriating things for people about politics, is how people can switch up their minds and change their minds on things like this. There's obviously something going on in the background, and that's what sparked all of this. But let's move on to some other news. Tuesday night was a massive primary night, and the results are giving conservatives a ton of ammunition, especially when looking at the chaos happening on the left. If you want to talk about the Democratic Party tearing itself apart and shifting hard to the left, this is the top story of the night. In New York City, candidates backed by Socialist Mayor Zohran Mamdani and the Democratic Socialists of America completely swept their House primaries. They successfully unseated 2 sitting establishment Democratic members of Congress. In the 13th District, a Mamdani organizer unseated longtime Representative Adriano Espiat. Meanwhile, in the 10th District, Brad Lander, backed by the further left faction, knocked out the incumbent Representative Dan Goldman in a race that completely fractured over U.S. policy toward Israel. The modern Democratic Party is being entirely hijacked by its radical left wing. Even the moderates in the Democratic Party are no longer safe.
Is this the Democrat Party tearing itself apart, or is this just par for the course now for Democrats? I sit here and ask myself if there are even enough Republican votes so you don't end up with communist or socialist politicians who will run their area into the ground. Elon Musk made the point a few years ago with the image he posted, which shows that he did not leave the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party left him. They have shifted so far to the left that the common sense Democrats were simply left behind.
Yeah, and the way they were standing up there on the stage talking to each other, and it's just it's a crazy thing we're seeing in New York City, that's for sure.
It blows my mind that we have dozens and dozens of examples of socialism and communism being put into practice, and yet we don't have a single example of where it worked. The socialists and the communists are great at propaganda, though, and they know to tell everyone that we're all going to be equal. Guess what? We will all be equal, but they're not bringing everyone up. They're bringing everyone at the top down so that we're all poor equally.
Now, moving on to the next race, we also have current South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson definitively securing the Republican nomination for governor, dominating the runoff against Lieutenant Governor Pamela Yvette with over 68% of the vote. Wilson will look to succeed the term-limited Henry McMaster this November. The race got highly dramatic in the final days when President Trump endorsed both Wilson and Yvette. Wilson immediately capitalized on it, rallying support from Senators Tim Scott and Ted Cruz, and secured a massive victory.
Is this Trump making sure he gets a win here? Is that what this was? He endorsed Pamela Yvette before the general primary, but now he's endorsing both? Look, it's South Carolina, so Alan Wilson is your new governor of South Carolina. No chance the Democrat, which I don't even know who it is, wins this one.
Yeah, I think he endorsed Yvette first, and then it was pretty clear that Alan Wilson was going to win, even just, going off the vote a couple weeks ago. It was pretty clear Alan Wilson was going to win. I think that's why he ended up endorsing Wilson as well.
68% is not close as well.
Yeah. Now, Utah also isn't usually a place where Democrats make national waves, but a newly redrawn map changed the game on Tuesday night after a judge ordered a new congressional map creating a heavily populated left-leaning district around Salt Lake County. Moderate Democrat and former Congressman Ben McAdams handily won his primary with 60% of the vote. He fended off a hard push from a slate of progressive and DSA-backed challengers. Unlike New York, Utah Democrats recognized that running a radical progressive would ruin their chances in a red state, so they rallied behind a familiar moderate. It is a fascinating contrast to that New York City race.
Is it really, though? We can sit here and say, well aware that you can't run a radical Democrat or a socialist in Utah. You have no chance of winning in a general election. It's one of the most red states in the country, but it does show you how parties think, though. The left wants the seat enough that they put up the person they thought had the best chance. But keep in mind, you can always pressure the person into voting a different way once they have the seat. I expect that's what's going to happen. They are a moderate until they're elected, and then suddenly they're a far-left Democrat. Let me give you an example. Abigail Spanberger. Well done.
I was waiting for you to say her name.
You knew that one was coming.
Yeah. We said that, too, when we were talking about the election before she got elected. We said, we think she's going to get elected, and then the whole moderate thing was just a ploy, and she's going to be radical just like the rest of them. And turns out,
we were right.
Yep. All right, everyone, let's get to the end of the show here. It is time for The Feed. This is the segment where we take all the funny videos we saw on our social media feeds this week and break them down one by one. So let's start with clip number 1.
Do you guys believe that conservative values are a threat to America?
Yes, actually. I feel like they put more danger on America than actually helping America, so, yeah.
Oh, I agree with him.
Oh, you agree? Why do you agree?
It was just, how... Actually, I don't know, but he's gay, so,
He's gay, so you agree with him?
Yes. Okay. Whatever he thinks is great.
He's gay, Matt. That's the whole reason that she's agreeing with him. She has no idea why she believes what she believes, but in this moment, she believes it just because this guy is gay.
He checks a bigger victim statushood box, that's why.
Yeah, and her pants weren't buttoned. That's the part that I can't figure out. Why are your pants unbuttoned, and why is there a marijuana leaf on your pride flag?
Probably because she follows the Democratic program and she can't afford new pants that fit. Whatever he thinks is great because he's gay. That tells you how little she understands the world. She only sees him as a gay man, not as an individual. That's exactly what the left wants, though. Put everyone in one box with a label and make sure that entire box votes a certain way. They don't want you to see yourself as an individual, because if you did, you might vote for what's best for yourself. And that's almost never Democrat.
Yep, I agree. All right, let's get to clip number 2.
We're tired of straight white men having the power and everything, and it's like we don't have the same privileges that are offered to straight white men.
Talk to me about what some of those privileges are that, straight white men have that you don't have. Talk to me about that.
I think I don't really know. Have you ever experienced like a specific instance?
I don't know, but I also need to go.
I know, I do need to go. I'm sorry.
It's always the straight white man bringing everyone down. Except no one can actually give you a real example of that happening. But that's besides the point. Run away as soon as someone asks a follow-up question and wants you to defend your accusation.
The straight white men always say, show me an example of what is holding you back, and we will help you fight that. They can't show you examples of white people or men holding them back, though. They really can't take accountability for anything. It is easier to say someone else is the reason you are falling behind than it is to look in the mirror and accept that you're the problem. Now here's a clip featuring one of my favorite senators. Clip number 3, Mike.
Rivers in rural areas were on fire because of corporations poisoning the people who lived in those areas. Poor middle-class communities getting poisoned and dumped on by corporations like Deloitte.
Deloitte is an accounting firm. Deloitte does not dump chemicals into rivers.
I consider Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez to be the leader of the Democratic Party. As I've said about her before, I think she's the reason there are directions on a shampoo bottle.
This makes me think of Senator Kennedy's previous comments where he said, I don't think you are the dumbest person in the world, but you better hope the dumbest person in the world doesn't die. That is very accurate. AOC has no idea how the real world works, and despite claiming she is for the people, she has no idea what the average person is going through.
Yeah, the things that some people say into the camera are hilarious. People want that woman to run for president. Can you imagine?
She can't run one district. How do you think it would go if she had access to the whole nation?
Yeah, it would be an absolute disaster. All right, let's move on to clip number 4.
Anybody that has baseball questions, I'm happy to take baseball questions from you now.
Buster, you were a member of this organization for a long time, and every year there's been a night to honor the gay community. Did you object to those nights when you were a player? And also, did you or anyone from the organization talk to Tony, talk to the players, and explain the importance of this demographic to your business, the importance of this evening for the fans?
I mentioned that I'm not going to revisit it, so when I ask baseball questions, I'll answer baseball questions.
Do you plan to reach out to the gay community about any of this, or no? I mean,
again, if you want to go baseball questions, I made my statement on it. I'll answer baseball questions.
But do you have no response to the commissioner saying inadequate and unclear communication?
I'll answer baseball questions.
Is Deborah responding to me?
I believe so, yeah.
Lester, why do you want to only answer baseball questions? There's some very important matters that the public is debating outside this organization.
I'm going to answer baseball questions.
Do you feel it's not your job as president of baseball operations? I mean, is this something we should be talking to Larry about?
Guys, we just need to keep it baseball related, or...
Well, you guys have made this baseball related because you had Pride Night. You allowed players onto the field that MLB said should not have had writing on their caps, violated MLB rules. Then MLB said that you guys didn't communicate with the players properly, that they didn't have to wear the hat. So there's been no response about that.
We get it. Buster made his statement. If you guys have any baseball questions, you can answer those, or we're going to be done.
The man said he would answer baseball questions. He gave a statement on the Pride Night thing, and that was the end of it. But all these liberal reporters in San Francisco just cannot let it go. This is the response you create when you try to force this LGBTQ stuff down people's throats. Those players are selling a bunch of jerseys and are getting a bunch of support. It's honestly a shame that Buster Posey has to sit through that and listen to these people try to blame him. Pride Night is not for everyone. Pride Night in and of itself is discrimination. Think about how offended LGBTQ people would be if the Giants had a straight family night. This whole Pride Night thing in all sports is so ridiculous. Just give it up and let the sport be about the sport. Why do you want a special day so much? No one cares that you're gay or bi or whatever you are. We just don't want to be forced to listen to you talk about it. Just get over yourself.
This was such a mess from the Giants. And it was quite funny to me that the Pride Night stuff was fine, but you couldn't have any writings of faith on your caps. So it was free speech as long as the left could control what the speech was. That tells you why you need free speech laws. The left can't look ahead, and what will they say when the people in charge don't agree with them and decide what they are saying isn't allowed? They will lose their minds when that happens, but they can't think far enough ahead to see that problem coming. Now, I have a great clip for you, Mike. The left loves the net zero agenda, and the UK is going through a bit of a heat wave right now. They even had to cancel school because of temperature. Play the clip.
Not a great day for the net zero brigade. Britain's solar panels have overheated. It's too sunny for solar panels. What does this mean? Oh, well, it means that we're going to have to use more gas-powered stations. So, fantastic. Great stuff. A conference, this is great, by the way, a conference on how to adapt for climate change was cancelled because of the climate. Yep, the event at the London School of Economics was scrapped because the building does not have adequate cooling mechanisms. Apparently, they host events like this every year to come up with innovative ways to deal with climate change. But clearly, they didn't think to adapt themselves by introducing air conditioning.
So here you have it. The incredible solar panels that were going to save the world suddenly overheated. The thing that needs the sun to work got too hot and couldn't work. Add on the wind turbines that only work when it's windy, but not too windy, and you see how the net zero agenda is killing the UK, and why the US would be insane to adopt it.
You know, that makes me think of the clip from Landman, when Billy Bob Thornton points to the wind turbines and says, if ExxonMobil thought those things were the future, they'd be all over the place. But they're not, and that pretty much tells you everything you need to know. It is funny to me, though, that the UK is complaining about 90 degrees when in America we have heat waves and heat indexes that are 110.
It tells you they have no ability to adapt to anything. They can't adopt air conditioning in all the buildings because it doesn't meet the environmental regulations that they put on themselves. They have everything completely backwards. They shut down all their steel plants because they wanted to save the environment, but what ended up happening, you still need steel to build, so instead of making it in the UK and using it in the UK, they buy it from China. They make the steel in China where they use dirtier energy forms like coal. They make it, then they put it on a boat and ship it halfway around the world. You actually created more carbon emissions by not making it at home.
But then they want to turn around and say that you're the bad guy.
Yeah, we are the bad guy. They don't care about China. But good news, everyone. Australia has committed to reducing their carbon output by 50%. So great news. 50% of 1% of the problem is going to solve the equation for us all. Great news, right? China said they're going to reduce carbon emissions. They haven't actually done anything to do it yet.
Will they, though?
No.
Will they really?
Well, let me rephrase that. Will they actually do anything? No. Will they fudge the numbers so that it looks like they did something? Possibly.
All right, everyone, that's it for episode 67 of the Republic Brothers podcast. Before you click away, please hit the subscribe or follow button. New episodes drop every Monday and Thursday. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.